in the recent budget, there's been expansion of these programs. How does this come about, and why has this been the case as opposed to direct funding of supply for housing stock?
Here's a little bit of history that most people don't know, and I know it because 40 years ago, I was federal president of the Young Liberals, that in 1963, John Howard, who at that time was president of the New South Wales Young Liberals, managed to convince Sir Robert Menzies, as he then was, to promise at the election held at the end of that year a first home buyers grant. Prior to that point, as Matt said, the emphasis of government policy had been on boosting supply. And the interesting thing is that ever since just before the 66 census, federal government policy started to move away from boosting supply of housing towards, beginning with the first homeowners grant, inflating the demand for housing. The home ownership rate has gone down to, I think at the 2016 census, the lowest it had been since the census of 1954, and for people aged 40 or under, lower than it had been at the census of 1954. I wouldn't be surprised if when the 2021 census results that we're now filling in come out around this time next year, that the home ownership rate among people under 40 turns out to be lower than it was in 1947. And it's actually hard to think of any area of public policy in Australia where governments have kept doing the same thing in the face of more than 50 years of incontrovertible evidence that it doesn't work, as the policy of giving cash grants to would-be home buyers in the belief that it boosts the home ownership rate. I mean, the home ownership rate has been going down ever since they started doing that. But the reason they keep doing things that appear so directly to counteract their stated objectives is because there are lots of votes in it.